Cool. No more jokes telling required. Cool. Now it's going to be real serious strategy. And I mean, it's close to 8 o'clock. So if I talk about strategy or quantum electrodynamics, I guess it's the same for you. I don't know. It's supposed to be one of the hardest topics. And what I want to show is it's actually not that hard. It shouldn't be hard. It should be in the hands of all of you. And you all should contribute it, which means you all should have a little bit of knowledge what it is and how you can contribute and how you can get started at all. Why am I saying all of this? Because my experience is that this is a really, I don't know, hermetic topic, which not everybody feels invited to all the time. It's something I felt, I don't know, I'm in the industry since 35 years or something. I never felt invited. When I wanted to be part of this, I had to fight for it. I had to argue a lot. I had to find my way into it. On the social level, but also on the content level, like what is it? How do these people talk? Why do they talk the way they talk? And does it have to be this way? And over the years, I felt that I am the lunatic. So what I did after a certain time is I read all the classics on strategy, all the old books. And the industry of strategy is not that old. It started like company strategy. Business strategy started roughly in the 50s, so there's not too much knowledge about it. A lot of this is not science-based. A lot of that stuff is anecdotal knowledge that's shared and people sharing their experience, how they do it and how it works for them, but there's not a lot of more than that. Anyways, I read all this stuff and the feeling I always had is like something's going wrong with strategy. It's often done as an offsite somewhere on the weekend, people having cool cigars in the evening, a lot of red wine, some sailing, and it just is right what's happening. And if you read all the books, no, that's totally the wrong idea. Strategy is supposed to be emergent, iterative, close to what we're doing in Agile and all of that. So that was kind of a funny insight. And with all of that reading and all of that thinking, I try to come up with an approach so that I can help people that are in my environment to actually get started with strategy and have a different understanding of it that actually works for them in work. Okay, long history. This is what we normally dream of in strategy. It's, you know, you can see far ahead, pretty views, crystal clear skies, really great. The closer you get, you also see a lot of details, some of them maybe even cozy, really cool. But in reality, what's often happening in companies is this: there's actually a lot of fog preventing you to see far ahead. You're smiling because you know the picture, Tim. I know. It's a year-old picture that I'm using oftentimes in different contexts. And the problem is, most of the time you're in that fog. And actually, after that slide, the talk could be over, but I'm going to give you a little bit more. The antidote to that fog is strategy is hard, to be honest. It's a little bit like Atari's inventor said about video games. It's easy to start, it's hard to master, but the start is easy, and that's cool. And how you get mastery in strategy is by just doing it, and doing it repeatedly and often. Everything we want to do well, which is a little bit of a harder topic, requires us to do it repeatedly and repeatedly, repeatedly. If you want to give a good talk, you better repeat it a couple of times. You don't just invent it and give it once, you repeat and repeat, and maybe your dashboard in your cars knows the talk. If you want to play the instrument well and give a concert, the moment you're on stage and play that music, actually you can't listen to the music anymore because you practice it so often. And that's what you need to do with strategy as well. But it's something we just don't do. So that's a little bit of a lookout of what the recipe is to get good at strategy. But let's start with a reality check. Like, who's doing product here? ProductTank, yeah, surprisingly a lot. What other roles are in the room? Maybe somebody can speak up who is not a product person in the room. Yeah.
Data analytics.
Cool. More.
Principal software engineer.
Yeah. I mean, you're suffering as much as we do. So that's a typical day in the life, and I don't go through all of the pain. Lots of people around us have back-to-back meetings from morning to evening these days. If you're working internally as in a company, remote, like 9 o'clock, sales promises an enterprise feature to close the deal. They call us, of course. 10 o'clock, support escalates that some churn thread is going on. You know, something went really bad with the last release. 11 o'clock, the engineers discuss with our architecture or the old topic about how many product features versus technical depth. That's already the third dimension we're talking about at 11 o'clock. But at 12 o'clock noon, except going for lunch, you have another stakeholder meeting with, a lot of urgent stuff. And at that time, it already feels like holding down the corks in the water with one hand. 2 o'clock, finally, one of the developers quits over lack of direction. Potentially, it's your fault because you couldn't give direction. But then you're asking for direction, which you didn't get ever. So is it your fault? You don't know, but you feel bad. 3 o'clock, executive asks why you're not moving faster in all of this mayhem that's going on. 4 o'clock, the major customer already, one of those churning, asks and threatens to leave. And 5 o'clock, a new competitor announcement reveals this isn't chaos, it's lack of choices. And then when I'm entering a company like this, I'm saying, like, well, obviously you're bad at strategy, but everybody comes to me and says, like, no, I mean, for a year we've introduced OKRs, so we're good. We have goals, we have a plan. Potentially all of you have a roadmap laid out. So what's missing? We're good at strategy. We're doing all the things. Vision, mission statements exist, at least in Confluence. Somebody can even remember where they live in Confluence. And maybe 9 months ago, somebody looked them up and saw that it's got nothing to do with what you're doing. So, and sorry, none of that is strategy. Although you might read all the books, all the blog posts and stuff, and everybody is mentioning any of these things, none of that is strategy. All of them are parts of the outcome of the strategy process, but none of them is the thing. And what's happening in companies most of the time is somebody sends you off and says, like, give me a SWOT diagram, or this tool, or that tool, or come up with goals, or, find better goals which, I don't know, bridge the compromise between development and product. But then you have goals, you don't have a strategy. And the problem is, if you don't have an overarching strategy, all of the answers in all of these levels are just random and ad hoc all of the time, which lets you end in the day we just saw from that product manager, because all of those directions are just shambles and going left and right and top to bottom in all kinds of directions. None of that is directed. It's just random opinions being shouted at you. Do this, do that, let's go over here, let's go over there, but there's no common direction in all of that. Because for a common direction, you need some holistic approach to your business. You need to know where north is, you need to know where south is, and all of that on all the levels, and that's a problem, from the idea of who you want to be down to the smallest piece of execution needs to go in one direction. And that makes it hard, because it also means all of these levels need to be connected. Oh my God. Which means all the guys on the top, the C-level, need to know about the problems in the latest corner of your business, from the smallest developer or any operational person out there. If these problems are not known, it's impossible to solve the strategic puzzle. Oh my God. So here another few symptoms, super famous book. There's maybe 2 or 3 books you could read about strategy which help you immediately. One of them is by Richard Drummond, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, super famous. How he condenses all of that is, bad strategy can be detected by a failure to identify the core problems, and you know all of this. It's not hard discussions you're having, it's discussions you're getting. It's vague statements you're getting, not concrete statements. Who's working in a startup? The experience normally is like you could go for 5 types of customers, and to have your leadership decide of one type of customer so that you don't build the worst compromise of all products is super hard. And it's humane, it is normal, it is the human condition that it's hard to decide against an option. It seems like we're losing money if we say we don't follow these people. In fact, though, for a startup, it is essential just to follow one direction and one type of people, and to focus everything you got on that, because you don't have a lot of resources that you can focus on a thing. So if you focus the few resources on 3 types of clients, you're done. But anyways, it is super frightening to have that clear focus and identifying all these core problems. The next thing is, and I talked about it a little, mistaking goals for strategy. It's just goals, and none of that helps you. So if I tell you, let's let's go from 17 to 40% revenue growth. What does it mean? Everybody in the company will have a different idea of what to do. So it's not actionable at all. So goals, most of the time, are not actionable. So they don't help. And what they're helping you is like getting kind of a motivation, an aspiration, and help people to see the direction of growth you want to go, but that's all. There is no content behind it at all. That's all. Fluff and buzzwords, that's very close to the core problem. So if you don't identify the core problem that you want to solve for people or that you're after, of course, everything is ending up in fluff and buzzwords. We want to be the Facebook of. We want to be the Meta of. We want to be the Google of. We want to be the Uber of. And, you know, none of that, again, is actionable at all. Ignoring trade-offs and priorities, that's also closely connected. Trade-offs and priorities mean we are decided and committed to that one direction. We acknowledge that going for 3 directions is not going to cut it. Because it's a hard question, we take some time and discuss it fundamentally. It might hurt, but we come to that one decision, that one direction. Again, if it doesn't succeed that smell test, it's not strategy. It's just fluff words and bingo BS. Lack of focus and coordination, copying others, I mentioned that already. And then overlooking execution. That's probably one of the main things. A couple of people sitting somewhere coming up with a nice fancy plan over the weekend, come back into the company and say, that's what we're going to do. But it's not anchored in what we can actually do, not in resource, not in capabilities, not in anything. It's just, it's a nice dream. It's a cool story to tell, but it's not strategy. And it doesn't help any of the employees at all. It just helps you to understand what these people would like to achieve. But how I can achieve it doesn't help me any. I come up with a couple of examples of fluff. I'm good at that. So why does this happen? So obviously, somehow, I think we all got an understanding that strategy somehow is important. It also comes with that gravitas, you know, and only the smarts of us are doing it and all that kind of stuff, and also fluff. If it's so important to a company, why is not every company good at strategy? That's kind of odd, isn't it? Like, what do you think? What's the reason why companies seem to suck at strategy?
Sometimes feels like your head is exploding because there's so many
Yeah.
things to consider and so many options.
Yeah, that's a very good reason. More reasons?
Because in a lot of cases they can be successful without it.
Yeah, at least that's how it seems. Like, I'll give you an example later on. Yeah. Or let's go into it now. Like, if everybody was really prepared for AI, there wouldn't be that much doom stories about AI, I think. And that everybody's come up with doom stories and we're doomed and we're all dying, or the opposite, everybody's enthusiastic on the other end of the poles, I think shows a certain strategic unpreparedness of a lot of people, which means they didn't think a lot about what's my role in the world, not as a person, as a company, what do I want to achieve, what is AI actually capable of, where could it help me, do I differentiate from AI, do I use it for my terms and all of that. So most of the companies who think it works are only waiting, I think, for the next existential shock out there, which will prove they're actually not doing well and they're not prepared. Anyways, but I get the point. It's what they think. Yeah. There was another hand going up. Yeah.
Yeah, short-sightedness. So only
Absolutely.
focusing on the next immediate thing.
Yeah, and what's the impulse? Like, why would we should be short-sighted? I mean, we all are. I get it. Like, what's the reason? It's so funny. Like, you know, we have all these people going to MBA schools and doing this and that and studying all that stuff. Why would you ever be short-sighted? Like, do you? And it's an open, honest question. Like, do you have an impression why it happens?
Well, for example, looking at your list of, a daily schedule, you're putting out fires all the time. You don't have time or capacity to think more long-term. You think about the customer maybe churning or the person quitting, and that's what you focus your time on.
Yeah, and I think actually you're touching on something really deep, which is that humans feel really well on a certain lower level of detail. It's where we feel home and cozy, and we can grab the detail and say, like, I have an opinion. I'm clear on this detail. Whereas all the mushy, abstract stuff is feeling kind of estranging, and like, I'm not certain, so you never can be certain on strategy, and I think that's something that turns us away from that. So that's why short-sightedness actually feels so comfortable. It's like not opening the envelopes with the receipts, but then somebody will open them for us.
I think there's also a problem knowing all the different things, so having not enough measurements in the details of the company, what's actually happening in the like small scope.
Yeah, and consequentially, this is what's happening. I really need to be careful with that slide. 95% of executives do not prioritize strategy, is my super simple answer. And it might be a combination of all the things we just discussed, that it feels uncomfortable to prioritize. I'm not really sure about the source. Everybody's coming up with 95%. Actually, I don't care that much if it's 80%, 70%. If it's more than 15%, it's just lunacy that executives do not prioritize strategy. We have a different topic with similar numbers, which is innovation. Everybody's bragging about innovation. Nobody prioritizes. And how can you discover it? I always tell people, don't listen to what people say, but look at their calendar. If they don't block time for strategy or innovation, they don't prioritize it. It's not going to happen. If you are a CEO of a company and you don't prioritize strategy and or innovation, it's not going to happen. If you don't find time for this topic, who would ever do it? Basically, all these people are mimicking what you are doing. So if it's not important for that person to spend more time regularly on strategy, why would I ever? Potentially, I would outperform him even. Like, could you do anything worse than outperforming him on strategy? So here's the second hint. Like, just doing strategy, you will really quickly be in the top 20% of strategy performers. Just like that, just by doing it. And I will come up with an example why that's the case. Okay, so then I know, I'm kind of know-it-all. That's my role, I get it. So what is then strategy? And I will come up with a very simple framework of strategy. And these are just 5 questions you need to ask yourselves. And I know you might never have heard this. It might be overwhelming in the moment. But what I promise you, if you hover around these questions week by week by week, after a couple of weeks, just like going running, this will be super easy. Because you will very quickly have a super good understanding about what these questions are and what they are about. So let's go through it. What is your winning aspiration? And this is playing on all levels. If it's company structure strategy, your product strategy, marketing strategy, go-to-market strategy, technology strategy, don't care. If you want to discuss strategy, these 5 questions will cut it for you. So, winning aspiration, what's my deeply differentiating ambition? And that's all about, here's an example. Let's say we are a company providing CRMs for small to very small business. So they have totally different needs than other ones. So it doesn't have to be, I don't know, we don't have a sales army of 10,000 people. We just potentially have customers coming to our shop. And instead of having a Rolodex, like I'm old enough to know what a Rolodex is, most of you will not know that. Instead of having a Rolodex, you want to have the addresses digitally in front of you. I just give you one reason. Remember a couple of years back, COVID hits, and all these regular customers you're having, you do not know how to reach them. Because they're coming and going, but you don't have their addresses at all. Why would you? You sell stuff over the counter, that's it. COVID hits you, you don't know how to contact them. You don't even know how to tell them that you're still open, that you could do delivery to their place and all of that stuff. So it would be a very cool idea to have a very, very simple CRM with all the addresses, a little bit of contact data for Instagram, for WhatsApp, for what have you, just to be able to contact them. So we want to build that thing for these people so that they don't die when the next crisis hits them. Really cool. Then where do we want to play? What is the exact playing field that we can dominate? And I, on purpose, say dominate because behind this framework, which is called Play to Win by Roger Martin, the idea, and he's paranoid about this, Roger Martin, he says wherever you play, whatever your product is, you should think about a market segment that you can dominate. And it doesn't mean you dominate the world. It doesn't mean you dominate everything, but you should be so specific about your client that you know you have a chance to be the best in that market. It means your market is really small, but that small, very specific market you want to dominate. If you can't define your customer that well, you're losing. And that also shows you how difficult the discussions are to cut your segment that specifically. That's not, and again, to all the people working in startups, who of your bosses comes up with such a strict, clear-cut definition of who the customer is? Because, again, the temptation is to include more people because it might be more growth. But in the beginning, you don't need that growth. In the beginning, you need to be awesome in a segment. Anyways, what is the exact market, the segments, the services, the channels you use, and all of that stuff? And then, how to win. And all of this is about differentiation. There's, like, since Porter in the 60s, 70s wrote, there's two types of strategies. One is I want to be cheaper. The other one is I want to be more differentiating, more specific. All of this is about being more specific because the other one is boring. And the other one is only about utility providers who already have a monopoly and are in total commoditization. Margin is low. Customer love is super low. So we are only talking about interesting products which actually are addressing any end customer. So we need to find a unique way to play in the field we defined before. What are the mechanics? What are the tactics we employ to actually win in this field? What do we need to do exactly? What is the differentiating value proposition our product comes up with? What is a competitive advantage that we have? One of the tactics is always, we are small, we learn faster than the other ones. Like, that's how disruption works. What is an economic logic or a business plan in which we could win? Then we must have some capabilities, of course, which are now derived from that clear idea of who we are, what we want to be, what we want to offer, where we want to offer it, to whom exactly. Then we need to know these things and have to have these capabilities to actually be able to do that. And this is not just like, we need to be customer-centered. Like, yeah, maybe not, who knows? But, normally, without all these trains of thought in the beginning, everybody comes up with templates over here. Customer first, we have the best service, we have the best support, or we're the cheapest, or what have you. But none of that is specific. It's just boilerplate stuff that helps nobody. And coming into company and saying, like, we're the best at customer centricity helps nobody. Like, what does it mean? It doesn't mean a thing. Does it mean we have 55 customer researchers? It's just meaningless stuff. So what do we need to be exceptional at? What do we need to invest in? For example, if we don't have a capability which is required up here, potentially we need to invest in it. Or are we lying to ourselves? Another courageous discussion we're going to have. Are we lying to ourselves or not? How do we make it all work together? What enabling or management systems do we need? Which means which parts reinforce each other, and that's the whole thing. This is a holistic view from execution up to the broadest idea to what's driving us. And all of that needs to work together. It's all compounding effects on each other. If one of the chains is missing, you're done. So only if all these choices fit together, you have a strategy. Everything else is just planning. And the fun fact is, planning is not strategy. It's just a plan. And that's what's normally happening. People are coming from an offsite and they have a plan. And then the plan becomes the goal. And then have fun to realize that the plan is actually not working. Career limiting move, normally. So, some required qualities. So, we heard about it. Crystal clear focus is what a strategy needs. It needs to be deeply coherent. And I'm always throwing these adjectives in the front of the words, because just coherence doesn't cut it. Deeply coherent. And it points out how hard the discussions need to be. There needs to be friction to get to that clarity. Otherwise, just, thrown in the room, yeah, it might make sense. Yeah, okay, let's go for it. Like, that's not even commitment. That's just, shady stuff. The solutions need to be brutally simple because you need to communicate all of that stuff to 50, 100, 2,000, 10,000 people. If it's not simple to communicate, again, you're toast. It needs to be, as I said, radically differentiating, not just differentiating. If it's not radically differentiating, it's boring. Nobody wants that stuff. And again, relentlessly compounding. So now it's getting funny. First of all, how do we not do it? And that's what most of the people know. Oh, you know, problem comes up. Let's have a strategy meeting. Oh, cool. How do we do a strategy meeting? Well, first of all, you book a hotel or something, somewhere nice. As I said, wine, cigars, lake for sailing and whatever. And then, 9 o'clock in the morning, Saturday or something, because you're really engaged, you really want to solve that problem. 9 o'clock in the morning, it starts, and then the discussion starts like, okay, we need a vision. Yeah, what is a vision? Yeah, we don't really know. Yeah. But is it clear what a vision is? A vision is this and that. And yeah, but isn't that a mission? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't really know. Like vision, like what comes first? I don't know. I mean, we have that conference document. Let's look it up. Oh, we are in an offsite. We can't access it. Okay. Does anybody remember? No. So anyways, you can easily spend half of the day just in meta discussions about what strategy actually is, what you actually would like to achieve over the weekend. Maybe everything you get to is just clarifying these words again. How do we deploy it in the end? If we had a result, which we won't have because we're still discussing meta. Anyways, so again, offsite potentially. This is how to not do it. Never do it. If anybody's inviting you to a strategy offsite, say no. They're doing it wrong, honestly. They're really doing it wrong. Except they're really exceptionally well in strategy. Then it might make sense. Because it's just like, compounding effects over the whole year. Now we need to summarize that to be really crystal clear. Yeah, have fun. But normally that's what they're leaving out. They're leaving out the whole year of discussion and they're just meeting for the final discussion and then they want to succeed. Nobody ever succeeds at that. So here's how to do it. Let me be constructive for once in this evening. Again, as I said, it's all about repetition. Repeat after me. You don't have to. A very old wise man. So I want to be a little bit more instructive. So does anybody know this guy? You could have a chance. The guy is called Vincent Bouillard. One of the top trail running achievements this year. He won the UTMB 100-mile race in Chamonix. Super cool. Why it's so funny is because out of the 10 best in running 100 miles, that is 161 kilometers. Actually, the race is 180 kilometers. I don't know how they survived. They do it. He won. Out of the 10 best from last year, only 3 came through, finished this year. And he was kind of a surprise when like a couple of insiders knew him. But it was like, why him? Why is Jim Wormsley, which is one of the huge stars of the show, he failed after 25 kilometers or something. He had to stop. Another guy, also 100 miles, even funnier story because that's David Roach. And what David Roach said last March is, I'm going to run Leadville 100, another legendary race. And I'm not only going to win it, I will win it in a new course record. And what you have to know is the course record is 19 years old, done by a superhero of the whole scene, Matt Carpenter. The highest VO2 max value ever measured on the planet, 96 VO2 max. Any hobby sportsman here has an idea of what it means. What's yours? Yeah, mine is down to 45. Insanity. So David Roche goes out there and says like, and everyone's like, yeah, he's a good coach, but he's a good runner, maybe up to 30, 40 kilometers, but how could he ever say he's going to win a 100-mile race with a course record? Like, it is insanity. So the image is actually him winning the race in a course record. He got a huge shitstorm before on social media because everybody said like, he's just a lunatic. He's bragging like no one on the world. He just wants to sell his coaching expertise and all that stuff. It's all a scam. He won it in a course record. Okay, so you might not be that interested in that. The question is, like, why am I telling these stories? What they're doing is insane. It is super hard. It is super long term. being able to run 100 miles faster than on average pace than I run 10 kilometers is insanity. It means lifelong preparation for these people. And they have rules to get there. So the thing is, there might be a recipe behind people who do something which is insanely hard and prepare for a long time to come to mastery in that thing. And here's a couple of rules. Rule number 0 is always stay consistent. Try to never hurt yourself. Because just hurting yourself for 2 weeks, you're nodding, you know it. Just hurting yourself for 2 weeks means decline already. So you need to start from a little bit of a beginning again. So always stay healthy. The number one mandate in training and planning your training is stay healthy at all costs. Then if you start running, let's say you're a normal person and you know Christmas is paying its toll. You're a little bit too heavy or your clothes shrunk a little. You might have the idea, 1st of January is a good idea to go running again. Here's the rules. It's the same rules these guys apply because all you want to do is you want to be consistent. You want to get a little bit closer to mastery in a thing that really seems hard to you and only pays off in the long term. First of all, start running. Just a little. Nobody cares. Just go running. If it's just around the block. Who still knows the commercial with Joschka Fischer? Herr Fischer, gehen Sie mal laufen. Just go running. Nobody cares how much. Let it be 5 minutes. I don't care at all. Just go running. And then if you go running for 5 minutes, just go running after a while. Go running 3 times for 5 minutes. If you succeed at that, maybe you even go 4 times a week running for 5 minutes. What about going running 10 minutes? 20 minutes. 2 times 20 minutes, 1 time 40 minutes, you know, slowly increase volume. And then when you're at a point where you're like running healthily for 5 times a week, increase the differentiation in your training. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes really boringly slow and all that stuff. That's how you get mastership in running, which is for a long time really hard and tough and you need to get used to it. You can't just go running. In the metaphor of the offsite, what runners don't do, like, you know, you can Google all the time, you can watch all the videos. What you're not doing is, oh, I want to go running again. What about I start with a long run on the weekend? What about 40 kilometers in the beginning? Nobody is doing that. And if you would do it once, which is exactly what happens to companies. They go for a big, huge offsite once. And then it's so intoxicating and so hard to wrap your mind around all these things that you could discuss that they just don't do it anymore. Yeah, we tried strategy, but it was a bad experience. And we got into each other's hair and it was really difficult because we were fighting all the time because it was really not clear. Of course, they can't tell you that. Like, they come from the offsite and they will have a truth and they will have that plan. And now it needs to be true. That's also why offsites never work, because the height of falling is just too high. How could you once in a year think about in this abstractness, on that level of abstractness, and then be right? It doesn't work. You need to get used to it. You need to get used on this abstract level of thinking about all the signals you take in from all the levels of the company, outside of the company, market signals, weak signals, all that stuff. All of that is really confusing. And what these people think is, let's have a nice offsite at that hotel. We're going to crunch it. It's going to be cool. It's never cool. It's just not a thing that works. Because I'm riffing so much on this repeatedly, I will show you a video, and probably you will agree with that video also because of who the person is in that video. It's not me. Let's see. Oh, where's the audio? Before the audio worked. We're done. Oh, that was where the... No, we just did this here, I think.
No, it seems to be turned off.
Oh, no, we're done. Ruined.
I don't know. There we go.
Oh, my God. I'm pretty sure that there's a little nuclear plant in this thing.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Anyways, I can lip sync it for you. That's Steve Jobs telling these guys, you might know them, you don't have to know them, that they're actually running like a huge startup. One person is there available for hardware engineering, the other one is doing marketing, the other one is doing that. And what they're doing week by week by week, they meet on Mondays, they sit together for 3 hours and discuss all the hard stuff. And then he says, we're really good in communicating all the decisions we made in these 3 hours to the rest of the company. And that's what we do. That's how we roll. 3 hours each week. Now comes the fun part. That's what I tell all my clients, all the organizations I work with, and that's why they hire me. They're like, yeah, we also want to discuss 3 hours a week. And then I'm going into these companies, and then I'm, it's getting serious. I'm like, yeah, okay, next time, next week, 1 hour. Not next week. We have another important meeting there. These are people calling me because they know how I work in strategy, that it's repetition, and they actually verbally come to me and say, like, it is the most important topic we have. We understood that. We want to do it every week, regularly. Not 3 hours, but an hour. And I'm fine. An hour is totally fine. Even half an hour is totally fine. I'm telling you, like, that's my dirty secret. Just half an hour is totally cool. The main thing is every week. So they're calling me and I'm saying, yeah, now serious every week. And then, I don't know, like, every week, really? Yes, you said it's important. I don't care. Let's do it every week. It's really tough to convince people to do it every week, even though they wanted to commit to it. And I think, again, like I don't know, it wasn't too nice what I said right now, but I think it's the human condition, honestly. Like, who of you wants to meet with all their colleagues once a week? Actually, I'm having events where I bring together all the product managers from a company in a room to build and work on a roadmap. And what they're saying is like, oh, that was actually a cool meeting because we haven't met for 2 years. What? Yes, product managers in a company not meeting, all of them in a room for 2 years. And if that's not a level of complexity you understand, having them meet with the engineering managers, that might have been 2 years ago. Or meeting middle management with C-level, all in one room, regularly. Oh, not done for 2 years. What? Yes, people live like this. It's like, anyways, I don't understand it, but that's what's going on. What's going on here? Let's see. Yeah, so the whole trick is you want to be in a strategic flow. You want to get rid of this. The problem is people have that insane, strange idea that you have to go through this huge mountain with mission, visions, blah, 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 whatever, to go into a strategy flow where you can discuss stuff every week. And what I'm saying is get rid of the bullshit and start with the flow right away. Just sit in a room with your people for 15 minutes, I don't care, 30 minutes each week, and just say, we're talking strategy this week. You might not have the same idea about strategy, who cares? Like, after 3-4 weeks, you will have a pretty similar aligned idea of what strategy is, what discussions you need to have, and all that stuff. To make it a little bit easier, I will tell you a little bit about what I think strategy should be that you're discussing. So 3 pillars, that's not too much, it's not 10, kind of cool. 3 is also always a good number. I made it up. So I don't want to go into details too much. You need a framework, choose a framework. The framework I just showed you was Play to Win. Super cool, Roger Martin, you can read a book. It's super easy to understand, just get it done. Don't try to understand too deeply, just get started. Just like with running. You don't need to have the best shoes, you don't have to know anything about physiology, just go running in the beginning. And here, just choose one of those stupid frameworks, use it, put it on a wall, discuss it. It's cool. Believe me, each week, 15 minutes, I'm fine. The next one is communication. Now it's getting a little bit difficult because strategy has that gravitas. So getting to presenting, I would like to start discussing strategy with you more often. It's just turning that person away normally. And now if we talk, sorry, not about you. If you're talking about organizations and confronting your organization that you actually really suck at strategy and we should do it more is just, raising all alarm bells right away. So what you need to do is you need to be a little bit sneaky with the communication on strategy. So what I'm doing is I set up these cadences of communication. Like, in our team, we talk 50 minutes per week. Maybe if you're a product manager, the idea that you could discuss that with your other product managers is also a good idea. So another 15 minutes per week. Don't start with an hour. Use a meeting you already have. If you start using a new meeting, what they're saying is like, my life is complicated enough. Another meeting on strategy, 15 minutes a week? No way. You just turn them away. So go easy with these people and always stay under the threshold where opposition starts. Always stay on the level where it's acceptable to people and not too much. What's happening after a while is really super cool. If that meeting is falling on a holiday, what people are saying after 6, 8, whatever weeks is like, normally we would have our strategy meeting on Thursday, but now it's a holiday. What are we doing? And now you won. They're asking you to have that meeting. If you could have it on Wednesday or Friday, and you're just saying, no, it's not that important. What about next week? We have it again on Thursday, like regular. We just don't have a meeting this week. And they're like, wow, really? Because it was so cool to have that meeting under the threshold. It's only cool as long as it's under the threshold. So be sneaky if you want to talk strategy in the beginning. Don't raise the level too high right away. Everybody will hate you if you do that. Nobody wants to talk strategy anymore. It's a complicated topic anyway. Just approaching a person with, I want to talk strategy is insane. Also, like, nobody calls me to the company saying, like, I want to do strategy. They have a problem they want to solve. Nobody talks about strategy, ever. Creativity is the third level you need to think about a little. I would postpone it a little bit. Why do we need creativity? It's like, I will talk about options in a minute. If none of the options, none of the ways you could choose in strategy is valuable, what are you going to do? You will need to think about, if this is not valuable, what could be valuable? And this is a kind of thinking that not everybody is used to, and it's fine and it's cool, but now we need to think about, like, how can we create that space where people can think about what we could do if none of what we're doing currently is too promising. Hard stuff, you could fill, I don't know, 2 months of seminars with that. We don't care about it right now. Care about it when it's happening. So, oh, cinema. Cool. In case somebody fell asleep. Yeah, here's some example frameworks. That is my favorite one because I made it. Marker options work. I think it's the coolest because it's so condensed, it's so small. I actually created it because I wanted to convince people that strategy is a topic for them, because normally a person like me is called into a company because somebody has a work problem somewhere. The teams are not cooperating. They're stupid. We always tell them they need to cooperate, they just don't do it. Have a look. Okay, I have a look. Teams would like to cooperate, but they have non-aligned goals. So goals do exist, they're just not aligned because they were made up in a random way. So it looks like teams cannot mind read and do the right thing all of the time. Surprise. Anyway, so I go back to these people which order me and I tell them, here's a framework I'm having, like, this is work, cool. But let me talk about the other levels as well. I have a thing called markers as well. That's not because close to Marcus. It's because markers are delineating things, describing things, and what I use it for is to describe the identity of a company. To make things simple, I don't care if it's the current identity or an identity that a company wants to have. Let's just say identity. The cool thing about identity is it's very stable. If you're not David Bowie, you don't change identity every day. You stick to a certain identity. If you look at Apple, for example, they changed once from Apple computers to Apple Inc. How long do they exist? I don't know, 50 years or something, 50. That's how old we are. So rarely is it that identities are changed, markers are changed. How cool, because this is what we need in strategy. We need one level that is really super stable. So that changes we have to make are always consistent with our identity or the direction we want to go in general. You could also say long-term goals to make things easy and have different words. I actually chose those words to make a difference so that we don't confuse it with vision, mission, all that stuff, so that all of that meta discussion is out of the room and we can focus on that. So people need to define a marker and take care that it's not changing every week. How cool is that? That is also getting rid of the fundamental thing that managers don't decide enough and often enough. There is a level they shouldn't decide that often. And that is actually what's in the way oftentimes, that we get decisions in a high frequency where we don't want it. We want to be this, no that, no that. Oh, we could also make money if we be this. No, we want to have stability on this, and we want to be really flexible on the options, the thing we do to achieve that. So these are options, and all of these things have qualities. As I said, these are hopefully slow and stable. If they're not slow and stable, they're doing it wrong. These should be diverse, nimble, and they should signify a choice. We are making deliberate choices. That's really close to what Roger Martin says in Play to Win, what I said before, 5 choices, and so on. And it also means we choose and commit, and just because it seems difficult, we don't surrender right away. And what I'm always saying is, and I could talk about this, just this topic for half an hour, like what properties should options have, like it's late. The way a company treats its options signifies their maturity, actually. Mature companies really know well how to juggle options. Immature ones don't. And they might even mess up this one. Oh my God, that's a signal. And work is work. I don't want to care too much about work because workers are doing their thing. They're cool, they're good. I don't want to care about work at all. Teams are not the bottleneck we have in companies. Most teams work just well. It's cool. That's not the problem. The bigger problem is this one. And that's why I created the framework, because now I can go back to these managers and say like, okay, you called me because of this, but if I ask you about your clarity on options, how clear are you on options? Oh. Are they documented? Oh, not that much. What about markers? Ooh, even worse. Like I said, I have a vision on Confluence. So I'm like, okay, you called me for this. Isn't that the better leverage for you as a company? Oh, potentially. So they sent me away, sent me home. After a couple of weeks, it kind of settles in, having a couple of nights of sleep. Like, yeah, we should work on options and markers. AKA strategy. Cool, I have a job. Yeah, that's the other framework. I showed it to you as well. And now, why are they called frameworks? That's a cheap little trick. For all these frameworks, you can build a visualization like this one. This is for Play to Win again. You can have this markers options work thing on the wall. And now you can sit in front of that visualization week by week by week and have that funny discussion on a high level, visualized. You can even point to things like, I heard stuff at the coffee cooker that how to win is not clear enough. People tried it, they don't understand what we mean. We need to be more clear on this. We didn't choose the right options. We got feedback that it's not working out. Should we change? Should we stay? Let's have a look at the data, and so on, and so on, and so on. I need to repeat this because it's so important. Only having that slow layer in any framework asserts that you have a reliable strategy. Otherwise, everything is just ad hoc, and it arouses all of your workers by saying like, these guys are just random. And that's the number one symptom, that every change just seems to be random because it's not clear if it's on that level or on that level or on that level. What do you mean? Are we changing work, options, identity? You don't make it explicit. To me, everything feels like every week we're changing work. How could I succeed? You're setting me up for failure. And a lot of that stuff is just communication errors because this is not clarified. It is not explicit. People are just rambling their opinions in a room saying like, I want you to do this. Where's the change? Is it here? Is it there? This is illegal to change. This might be legal if there's a good reason in this. This we can change, like, between you and me, all fine if there's a good reason. But tell me where it is. What is the actual change? Okay, and then we need the fast layers to actually be able to change anything. Like, you get that. That's the whole thing about Agile. By the way, as I said, I hope people do not want to be really agile on the markers and, employ already on the options level. Like, there's people thinking that this stuff should flow, Kanban, and this isn't supposed to flow. There could be options which are staying on the board for 4 or 5 years. It's cool. Let's say an option is VW Golf. Like, we need to change this to keep up the flow metrics on our board. That doesn't seem to make sense. If the VW Golf is still a successful product, don't mess it up because of flow metrics or anything. It just makes no sense. It's stupid. Principle of communication, I told you already. High cadence, meet as often as possible to talk about that stuff. If I can trade, I will always trade cadence for duration. If you give me 30 minutes every week, I take that rather than 1 hour every 2 weeks. Cadence always beats duration. Mathematics. The reason is because we are creatures of habit, and this meeting is basically hitting us on the head all the time, like, keep busy, keep doing it, discuss the right stuff, So getting out of the habit is so easy. If we're missing just one beat, it means a break of 4 weeks potentially if it's a 2-week rhythm. So we have a gap of a month basically between 2 discussions. That's like hell for the strategy world. You can't do that. So keep up the rhythm, keep up a high cadence. I don't care how much time you have for that. Oh, Sinma again. And always keep below the threshold that people don't run away. To make it cheap, I give you a couple of super stupid, simple habits. The first one is a product owner, product manager in a planning meeting, Scrum meeting. Please always, if you're a product manager, always start with the high-level strategy. Markers, play to win, whatever. I don't care. This is who we are in the world. This is what we want to achieve. To get there, we chose the following option. You are part of the teams working on that option. In that option, there's a really complicated feature, which is called XYZ. That's what we're going to work on in the next week. And it's important because, please, every meeting should start like this. Don't just throw the feature out there because you, in your brilliant mind, know what it's supposed to be and mean and what the outcome is. Break it down for all the people in the room. Always. That's how people know why they come to work from 9 to 5. That's how they can make all these micro decisions in coding, in research, in whatever, because they can think with you, they can help you. And I'm telling you, like, no product manager can ever do any work on their own. You always need a team around you to orchestrate stuff, to distribute the thinking, to delegate work. And you're nobody without the coders anyway. So you need them to fill them in on all these details from the highest level down there. Each meeting. Middle management, and again, they hate it most of the time. You always need to have portfolio meetings or, program management meetings, coordinating all the teams around you. And the teams hate it as well. Again, another 1-hour meeting, middle of the week, all the teams in one room, or representative of a team in one. We hate collaboration, I know it. But it's the only way to get aligned. We need communication, it's expensive. As Claudia Kochka, who introduced design thinking in Procter & Gamble, what she said is, like, the noblest job of us is to steal time from a company to enable that communication. We are stealing time, and we need it. C-level, same thing. That's what Steve Jobs said. 3 hours each week. I'm not a lunatic. 1 hour each week. Half an hour, I don't care. They will get into it. They will love it after a certain time. But please, regularly each week, do it. Listen to the weak signals. Listen to the stuff that people are talking about at the coffee cooker. And now the main thing, what am I doing? No drugs, promise. Get started tomorrow, just like with running. Don't wait for the 1st of February. Get started tomorrow. As I said, below the threshold. Don't kill your co-workers. How do you get started? Oh, by doing it. This is a cool German book. It's very cool because the first third or so is also documenting my framework. And some thinking around it. If you don't want to go for that book and you're not German speaking, Play to Win, the strategy classic of the last years. Super cool, read it. Follow me. Very good idea. Or, now it's getting extreme and it's shameful marketing. I'm having a thing with Strategy Collective, and I'm happy because this evening proves that you can survive my Strategy Collective. A person is in the room who has been through the first 12 weeks of that. It's 12 weeks of social learning. Each Monday, we changed it to Thursdays, I think. I drop content, highly curated, presentations, videos, me talking, like this evening. But the main thing is weekly group calls. Each Wednesday morning and evening we have group calls where colleagues do also peer coaching, explain what they did at work, how they frame the content we go through and all of that stuff. My hope was always that this is the main part. It became the main part after 3-4 weeks. People get really used to each other and use these calls a lot and don't rely on me that much. On top of that, assignments, exercise, feedback. Not to make it too long, if you want after the cinema more info, grab that code, but you don't actually need it because you can always find me on LinkedIn, drop me a message. If this wasn't long enough for you and you would need to hear more from me, this Wednesday already, there's new free webinars, especially focused on what we said today, but going deeper a little bit, and you can also ask a lot of questions. That's long enough and that's marketing enough. So from here on, ask me anything. And I think you're prepared. Thank you.